We are stuck in deep. After the command to hedgehog was received, we are ordered to the edge of the small village. We are supposed to hold the southern side with 3 tanks and almost 100 infantry soldiers. From the debris of houses and whatever else is quickly on hand, defending positions are being improvised to give at least some protection from the shelling. Just as we had taken position behind a low wall, one can already recognize the T-34s with one naked eye. Painted white and with mounted infantry who are clinging to the turrets like grapes, the enemy tanks are rolling towards us at high pace. The commander looks through the binoculars and coordinates with the other commanders who should take which sector under fire. I keep an eye on the enemy and hope that Master Sergeant Hansen won't suffer another blank episode. Already the first shots launched from the Panzer III beside us, and we can spot the impacts near the attackers. The T-34s slow down, the foot soldiers jump off. With the machine guns of the armored personal carriers, our infantry open fire and force the brown hordes into cover. The first T-34 moves into my pointed aiming post. After I have permission to fire, the shot already cracks into the opponent. The distance was too great for the stubby gun. On one hand, their penetration is enormous, but at long range, a bit too inaccurate. Reloaded, the second shot hits the frontal plate of the T-34. It stops immediately, but nothing happens. Wait, acquire the next target, the dance continues. In the meantime, the Russians have closed within 500 meters. We switch to high explosive rounds. The assault collapse. 3 burning enemy tanks are sitting in front of our position. The Russians can move no further. Even the audacious storming forward of the Ivan has collapsed in the accurate machine gun fire. We cease fire and let Ivan escape. Conserving ammunition is the motto. Who knows for how long we may be stuck here. It's already afternoon, my stomach is growling. Today there won't be anything warm to eat. Let's see what our radio operator got into the field locker. The positions are being thinned out. 2 men stay inside the tank. Only every other infantry machine gun remains manned. We find a Russian shack for ourselves and try to cook up some soup in order to have something to eat. There's still some bread too. A large piece of bacon goes into the pot. It's already smelling delicious when we hear engine noise. It does not sound like tank engines, however. It's Russian planes. The brown ground attack planes are attacking and trying to shoot us out of our position. Bombs are rushing into the village, and everyone is in their makeshift shelters. Only our 20mm anti-aircraft gun is barking and shooting tracers into the sky. Several machine guns open fire on the low-flying planes, but with the impending darkness, it's rather a gamble. No fighter cover is showing up, and so we hope that it will be over soon. A burning Ivan crashes far ahead of us into no man's land. It's getting quiet again, but the Russians won't give up so easily. We are to watch out for small advance units who may sneak up upon us in the dark and overpower us in close combat. We brought some flares along. Every 20 minutes an illumination flare goes up in the sky to light up the approaches. As I'm later on watch sitting inside the tank, I get the impression that behind every mote of snow a Russian is crawling forward. The shadows cast by the flares dangling from parachutes play tricks with you again and again. I strained to look through the binoculars. There was something, or maybe not. I memorized the location and turned the turret in that direction. Glued to the optic, I observe the spot intently and wait for the next illumination parachute. The rocket shoots upward and it becomes bright as a day. No doubt, I see over there, nearly invisible in the snow, several figures coming toward our direction. I loudly report a patrol with direction and distance and launch a shell at the targets 200 meters away. Bodies are flung through the air, several figures jump up and are trying to run back. The tracer bullets of the neighboring unit chew into the fleeing Russians and finish the ghostly scene. Afterwards, it stays quiet for the remainder of the watch in my sector. All around us, through the night, however, one can hear battle noise and explosions over and over. After a few hours of sleep, we are awakened by screams for alarm. The Russians are attacking anew. Like the devil, I run to my Isolde and jump inside. A short time later, we are complete. I can see the armored wedge approaching us. Mortar firing commences. The impacts are inside the village, but not on our positions. Again, our 75mm cannon spews fire and destruction into the attacking Russians. T-34s and BT-7 are closing in on us at fast pace. Behind them follows slowly a KV-1, which is hardly bothered by our shelling. Like madmen, the Russians are storming towards us. Machine guns rattle, enemy soldiers are being hit. Tanks spin in place with the shot-up tracks. Muffled explosions are tearing apart the enemy tanks. The 20mm anti-aircraft gun takes part in the ground combat. We have the feeling we are stopping the assault. Only the KV-1 unerringly keeps coming towards us. Its armor is simply too strong. We try to hit the tracks. Something needs to happen. Stukas. Finally, some help from the air. The row of planes dive down onto the fat beasts and bombs are dropping under the howling of sirens. Again and again, those big birds are turning downward and throw death into the spearhead of the attack. When the squadron, consisting of Junkers 87 airplanes, turns away, the 3 heavy tanks have been destroyed. Hundreds of dead Russian soldiers are lying on the battlefield. None have managed to get closer to the village than 200 meters. Now the Reds must realize that there's no getting through here. With a soot-blackened face, I'm standing on top of the tank. Now, first of all, something to eat. Some bread and hot coffee improves my morning quite a bit. Toward noon, we get the word that relief was on its way. Indeed, in the afternoon, we spot clouds of smoke in the west and hear battle noise. Toward 3 p.m., we finally see the leading tank approaching us and are happy about our reinforcements. But a return drive toward Charkiv is unthinkable. The second combat group is supposed to keep pushing further to the Donets with us. We receive our reinforcements inside the village. The supply train brings up rations and munitions. The march ahead of the combat units is supposed to continue in the morning. The order is: advance to the next village, then on to the river bank, followed by securing the left and right flank and clearing it from the enemy. Well, what a joy! This evening there are no further attacks, since the Russian must certainly realize that our battle group is now double its size. He no longer attacks. The night continues to be quiet except for small artillery assaults. Nothing worth mentioning. I don't sleep quite well. When we are surrounded, you tend to worry a bit. I'm also worried about my commander. He didn't cope with the situation as well as I had hoped. But a conversation I wouldn't want to pursue right now. First, we need to get out of this witch's cauldron. Close to 4 o'clock in the morning, we get ready for the further advance. We form 3 battle groups with 6 tanks each and further vehicles of the infantry. As a precaution, the reconnaissance have already departed ahead of us in order to eliminate any possible surprises. After 30 minutes, the first artillery shells are already soaring over our heads toward enemy territory. The armored reconnaissance vehicles have certainly spotted something. A little later, we pass a destroyed anti-tank gun emplacement where 8 artillery pieces well camouflaged had been waiting for us. Fortunately, the scouts are on their game and cleared up the situation. On it goes to the river bank. It can't be too far anymore. We secure on all sides. It's only slow going since it's alternating from snow to mud, and our tanks have to dig their way through the difficult terrain. We still have to go close to another 4 kilometers when it sets in again. Artillery fire is raining down on us, and we can recognize muzzle flashes in the distance. They look like anti-tank gun fire, but I'm finding it suspicious. Strenuously look through the optic, and no doubt, the Russians have dug out large holes and driven T-34 into them. Only the turrets are still sticking out. These are tough to knock out. We can launch a frontal assault. Nice mess. We fire a few shells in their direction and set smoke screen for now to withdraw ourselves from the line of fire. We'll have to bypass them and attack from the flank. That's a job for our Isolde.